It's a hoax.
A total hoax.
Total hoax. It's an outrageous lie. And they know it.
That was Senator James Inhofe in a Fox News documentary that I had a little bit to do with from May of 2007. It was called Global Warming, The Debate Continues. Well, as the ranking member of the Environment and Public Works Committee, Senator Inhofe has been challenging the so-called settled science of man-made global warming since 2003. So one can imagine a sense of vindication from the senator after details of Climategate, in which scientists emailed each other about cooking results, led to a worldwide scandal. And now, breaking news that one of the scientists who wrote several emails at the center of the scandal, Phil Jones, he's director of the University of East Anglia's Climate Research Unit, just announced that he's stepping down, at least temporarily. Now, all this should make for a pretty gloomy climate summit in Copenhagen, which the president will be going to next week, and that's just fine, we assume, with Senator Inhofe, who will be attending the conference with what he calls a truth squad. Now, to find out why he is going, we welcome Senator Inhofe from Washington, D.C. Senator, great to see you. Can you believe it was 3 years ago you were calling this a hoax? Do you feel vindicated now with Climategate?
Well, actually, it was 5 years ago that we made the statement in the first place. There was a repeat that we had when you and I were together 3 years ago, David. Nice to be back with you.
Good to be back. Well, do you feel vindicated?
Well, a little bit, but if you'll go back and pull up on my website a talk I made on the Senate floor in '05, I talked about the scientists coming to me and saying, look, they're cooking this thing. They won't take our views into consideration. They're withholding the raw data, all these things. So I gave a talk on the Senate floor. Now, the real redemption is that everything I said back then, it appears that they're saying now in these hacked emails. So, yeah, I think redemption is partially here.
Did you have any evidence that they were cooking the books back then, or did you just assume it was the case because they weren't acknowledging some of your figures?
David, if any of our viewers out there want to check on that, go to inhofe.senate.gov and they can pull up the speech that I made in 2005, that was 4 years ago, on what the scientists were telling me that they were doing to the science.
So the scientists back then looked at their numbers and looked at the numbers put out by all the research agencies around the world and said, these numbers just don't match up.
Well, that's true. If you look at some of like David Bellamy from UK, Nir Shavi from Israel, these guys used to be marching down the aisle with Al Gore, and they had changed and came back and they said, wait a minute, in IPCC, that's the United Nations, we can't get the data on which they're basing these conclusions. And so these summaries for policymakers that they keep coming out with make it look as if, yes, man-made gases are causing global warming. Now we see that they were more than a little bit concerned themselves, David, because they were saying, let's cease doing this because they'll find out about this. I think it's pretty incriminating.
And yet Senator, the billions of dollars that we've been spending that U.S. taxpayers have been footing the bill for started under the Bush administration. So even the Bushes weren't listening to you.
Oh, that's not quite true. Yes. There were some appropriations at that time, but they were never adequate. Barbara Boxer and the Democrats are always saying, no, the Bush administration is not doing enough. And I was saying you're doing too much. But nonetheless, we're talking about billions of dollars, David. This is not a little deal. And then look at this. The endangerment finding that the EPA is talking about coming out with is all based on the science from the IPCC. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that if they came out with an endangerment finding, it'd be based on false science. So we're going to have the director of the EPA before our committee I think tomorrow afternoon, I believe.
All right. Well, that'll be interesting to watch. But what are you planning to do in Copenhagen?
Well, first of all, you have the president going over there. I had several interviews today from Copenhagen, from BBC and other countries over there. They are all under the belief that if the president goes over and makes a speech that we know he's going to make, and that is we will have reductions of 17% by 2020, they all think it's going to happen. I've got to tell him that that's not the way government works. We have 3 branches of government, and he would have to pass that through the House and the Senate. David, there aren't at most 30 votes, and they'd need to have 60 votes to get it out of the Senate. So even in the absence of the scandal that has come up in the last few days, they didn't have the votes.
Do you think it's a mistake for the president to go to Copenhagen?
Oh, I think it is. I think it's I don't know. There's got to be a political reason for it. I think it was bad advice, but nonetheless, I think also several members are going to be going over, Barbara Boxer and others, and so I just feel that I need to be over there and, you know, to give the other view.
All right, now, there are a lot of rumors swirling about who might be in your Truth Squad. Can you tell us the members?
No.
All right, well, as you know, one of the suggestions was that Sarah Palin may be among your crew. Is that true?
No, it isn't. I'm taking a couple of senators with me, and we're going to wait till we get over there to announce who they are.
All right, but Sarah Palin is not among the crew.
I promise you that.
Okay. Senator Inhofe, you were prescient. Years ago, you were saying it. It apparently turned out that, at least in this case of Climategate, it is true that they were cooking the books. Good to see you, Senator. Have a safe trip over to Copenhagen.
We'll do it, David.
Appreciate seeing you again. Thanks very much. Well, coming up on deck right here, the latest.